Hello?
Hi.
We have been gone for a while
Just in so many ways.
in so many ways. I just feel like
I feel gone today, in fact.
yeah, we've really tried to figure out okay, like how do we come at this from like a schedule perspective? How do we make it work with the two of us and our wild lives?
And
So
during
here we are.
fall, when everybody's getting sick, you were down and out last week.
Oh god, we
Uh,
had the plague.
the
We had
plague.
the,
And you know
the plague.
what? I had, what was it, yesterday? There was a day this week that I think between Deneen and I, my business partner, we had like 5 clinic cancellations between like 2 of us. I
Yeah.
had like 2 out of 7 people my postnatal class. It's been a time.
Yeah, it's definitely been a rough vibe at that with illnesses. My kids, and the thing is I'm super grateful my kids don't get that sick. But then when
Right.
I get sick and they're still at the same level of energy, I'm not well.
Just can't handle it.
Can't handle it. No.
No.
So we've both kind of been down and out and in and up and down and side to side. So we're just trying to like land at a spot that puts us in a position that we can still deliver you guys content because we do like doing this. It's really fun and
100%.
it's like I look forward to it, but when when life gets in the way, it's like shit show. See you later.
Shit show. Crazy
So
train.
we've been going through a lot, both of us
Yep.
individually. I feel like, and maybe, people comment back, like, let's sound off. I want to know your
Right.
thoughts. I feel like people are crusty.
Crusty as fuck.
Crusty.
Yeah. And
I,
I'm pretending to be above it.
no.
Because certainly I can be a treat as well. But I think it all like feeds off of one another, right?
Yeah. I think when you go out in public, and I think people are there's a lot going on in the world, and I think people are so used to interactions where people are rude to them or they're short or whatever, and then they just like take that energy and they bring it to every other scenario. And sometimes, like, speaking to adults, it feels like they have less, you know hold on their emotions than my toddlers.
Right. Yeah, no,
So
I would agree with that.
yeah. So anyways, we're back. We're here. We're ready to rock. We're ready to bring you guys some good content, and we're going to talk about PMS. And I actually found this study and I thought
Speaking
it
of
was,
grumpy.
speaking of crusty, who else experiences mood changes leading up to their period?
Right.
And the interesting thing with PMS, and this is something that I think is important for everyone to know, is that PMS, despite what you see on Instagram and social media, is not a hormonal imbalance. In fact, there are actually no hormonal imbalances associated with PMS in most cases. In a lot of the evidence, we're looking at people's sensitivity to normal hormone fluctuations. And they actually did some research and found that if you were to test hormones in a group of women, you would actually not be able to tell based on their hormone levels who has PMS and who doesn't.
So it's not the hormone levels themselves, but how the individual is reacting to those natural changes in hormone levels.
Partly, yes.
Okay.
And it's interesting because the research on PMS, like the verdict is still out. There's still like a lot of moving parts, but we know that part of it is that it's the reaction, it's the sensitivity to normal hormone shifts. Secondly, we know that there's a relationship to serotonin. Thirdly, we know there's a relationship to GABA. And so, and then also, if we want to go beyond that, we know some research links inflammatory markers to PMS.
Right.
And so, looking at the role of inflammation, looking at the role of the microbiome, it's actually a really complex condition. And so, when we're looking at treatment options, it's not, a lot of my patients feel like, oh, not heard, because they'll see their doctor and they're like, my doctor won't run my hormones, or my
Right.
doctor just wants to give me an antidepressant, when that actually might be the most relevant treatment option for them. That actually might be the most effective treatment option for them. But I found, riffing off of that, there was a study looking at PMS and the connection between PMS and MSK pain. And so the study compared premenstrual symptoms, vitamin D status, calcium intake, and psychological symptoms in women with and without musculoskeletal pain. And I think this is a really interesting topic because it quite literally blends what you and I do. And so
Correct. Yeah, I was just thinking that.
I'll give you a summary of what happened in the study, and then we'll just kind of go from there. You can talk about if you have some personal, like
Yeah.
clinical tidbits or whatever else. Now, there was 108 women with musculoskeletal pain and 108 women without. And they had found that they looked at, okay, a couple things. They assessed their PMS. So participants reported 5 psychological symptoms. So irritability, depression, anxiety, mood swings, and social withdrawal. And 3 physical symptoms, breast tenderness, headaches, and fatigue. And they used a 21 item premenstrual severity scale. Now, you might be saying, like, oh, they're just using a checklist. But actually, this is a really good way to track PMS. There's no, like I said, there's no real test for it.
Right.
So this would be the best way. They looked at calcium consumption, and they did this with daily dairy consumption. So,
okay.
Then they looked at anxiety and depression assessed using the HADS, the Hospital Anxiety and Depression Scale, and it classified participants into normal, borderline, and abnormal categories. And then they measured, on top of that, they looked at vitamin D, and they established a range for normal, insufficient, and deficient. And so some of the key findings were that there was a high prevalence of vitamin D deficiency and low daily calcium intake among women with pain versus those without. Women with pain had more severe physical and psychological PMS symptoms, including fatigue, headache, irritability, anxiety, depression, and social withdrawal. And severe PMS was associated with abnormal anxiety and depression scores. Vitamin D deficiency was linked to increased severity of symptoms like headache, irritability, anxiety, and depression. And low calcium intake was associated with the same.
Interesting.
So,
I'm not surprised about the vitamin D because that seems to be like a really consistent finding amongst like a variety of different conditions, right? Like we consistently see low vitamin D consumption with a lot of like autoimmune conditions and stuff like that. I haven't heard as much about calcium, to be perfectly honest. It would be interesting to tease out to see if it is specific to dairy. Like it would be interesting to see if there was some other sources or supplementation and stuff like that.
yeah.
But yeah, that's actually I don't know, I think that's pretty interesting. I would say it mostly falls in line with what I've seen in clinical practice. What I see more commonly than like pain just appearing when somebody is about to have their period is worsening of symptoms, with the exception of maybe headaches. I've had several patients, for whatever reason, when we decide to track it with a headache diary. I find that headaches are a tricky beast, honestly, because there's so many different types of headaches with different origins. B, they can be quite difficult to track because people will inherently leave out information that they feel is not relevant for you to know, right? Which is it's just sort of what humans naturally do. They just filter out what they feel is not clinically relevant. So you have to keep digging there. But when it comes to headache diaries, I have a lot of patients that will specifically experience headaches at specific points in their cycles. Now, again, is, you know, it's still a fairly it's not an easy direct thing to treat, right? Because it's not typically one thing that's contributing to that. It can be, you know, sleep hygiene, physical activity levels, dietary related, stress management, and sometimes we're ruling out other systems. Like, you know, I'll always take somebody's blood pressure. I'll ask when the last time their vision was properly assessed.
Underrated though. Like people don't think about the fact that their contacts might need to be updated.
No, for real, and you have to look at all of these different systems, right? Because they can all contribute to them. And if you've ever looked at like old school like headache textbooks, well, they're not old school. Some of them are still very much referenced in medicine, but they're like you know, like you see some that are like 8 inches high. Like there's a lot of different types of headaches, and we're commonly referencing or talking about just, you know, a couple. But I do find when it comes to MSK symptoms specifically that I'll more likely see an increase in symptoms leading up to their period, most notably mechanical back pain. And for the longest time, that has always been me as well. Um, and it's really interesting because it feels, in my opinion, like very mechanical. Like I'll even find that if I'm like forward bending to like put something in the dishwasher leading up to my period, that will create almost like a catching like pain,
Hmm.
um which feels very mechanical, and I'll have to like kind of remind myself and go through where I am in my cycle and be like, oh, this is where I am and what this likely is, which just helps me manage my symptoms mentally. But fun fact that has nothing to do with this study. So, and for those that don't know me, I'm actually somebody that struggles with lower back pain. Like it's something I'm consistently managing. And I have found now 3 different occasions in my life where I've been really consistent with running, that my back pain has been very minimal. And I
So
don't
counterintuitive for a lot of people.
I know, and that's why I kind of want to share that. And you know, I've been thinking about it, and I haven't had the opportunity to dive into the research, but I would like to. But we do know, like, people are always really fearful of like high impact activities if they have mechanical pain. But I know I'll have to pull up the study for another time. But I know that there is research. We used to say like running is bad for the knees, and
Hmm.
what we actually found is that it's a pretty positive trigger um like cartilage and synovial fluid in the joint, and is actually can be quite helpful for knee pain. So now we've sort of debunked the idea of like, you know, running is bad for your knees, air quotes for those that are listening to this and not watching it. And I query if some of the same physiological explanations actually apply to the intervertebral discs and the vertebrae of the back. If actually we could potentially be stressing it in a positive way and creating more spine resiliency. So I just wanted to add that in there for anybody that has back pain and you're, you know, kind of dabbling with the idea of running. You know, this N=1 study had really positive results of me not having back pain with running consistently.
Well, and I think if we really like pick it apart, Deneen, actually, Dr. Ashley's business partner and a mutual friend of ours, she also has treated me as a physiotherapist. And the one thing that she said to me that kind of caught me off guard one time was I was talking about my posture because I'm used to like being hunched over, and
Right.
I do get a lot of upper back and neck pain. And I said, I'm just trying to work on my posture, and I'm like, telling her all these different things, and she said, honestly, the best posture is your next one. And I was
Movement variability. Yes.
like just not sitting. You shouldn't be like this. All shouldn't be like
Correct.
this. You shouldn't be like, you should just be moving so that you're not. And I think this is the biggest thing. I think a lot of people in pain, they're like, I'm in pain, I can't move. I know
Right.
plenty of people in my life like this, and they're like, I can't exercise because I'm in pain, and therefore I'm in more pain, and therefore I'm in more pain.
Right.
And the reality is you have to move. And I was just thinking as you were going through with talking about back pain, and I think two things are true. I think the first thing is, if we circle back to this study that we're talking about, we think about vitamin D and we think about calcium. The interesting thing is that there is research for calcium in PMS. And so there's some thought around that people with PMS are calcium and potentially magnesium deficient. And
Okay.
now we see a relationship with vitamin D, and we do see research on vitamin D and PMS. But beyond that, kind of as an aside, I hear your story, and I know that I am actually a person historically who's suffered from really painful periods, really heavy periods, and this chronic, and you know me, even in the past few years, I go through like cyclic upper back and neck pain. You know
Right.
this because you treat me as a patient, and that's not confidential because I just brought it up.
Right.
So
Right.
but what I've noticed when I'm actually thinking about this right now on the spot is that I actually haven't had the upper back pain and neck pain I normally do when stressed, when sick. Like, yes, I'm tight. I coughed all last week. I was up
Right.
all, but I've been strength training since August, and I've been strength training twice a week actually consistently
Yep.
because last week I took off because I was sick. But it's interesting because I'm thinking, a lot of times I get all like what I would refer to as bunged up and like up here. And I'm not like that because I've been consistently moving, consistently strength training, and getting myself to the point where I don't have as much pain. And then, circling back to the period stuff, I don't have period pain anymore. This was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really attribute it to the vitamin D or the strength training alone because I've just done so many things in the last 10 years.
Right.
But I certainly think it's part of the picture,
I
right?
think it's part of the picture too. And I think this kind of goes in the category of looking at people as individuals, right? So I would believe, and having those honest conversations with people, like I would very much believe if somebody came to me and said, actually, running seems to be an aggravating factor for my back, I will listen, I will hear you out for sure. But I think we do need to take all of these things in the clinical picture, because when I circle back, I should also add that I am somebody that is like exceptionally regular with strength training.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone did not just help my back, right? So it's not
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not a strong individual. There's something for me that seems to be specific to loading with running that is
Yeah.
helpful. Now, the same thing that might be helpful for me might be aggravating for someone else. But when I also look at these things in context, we also know that calcium and vitamin D also have a really tight knit relationship when it comes to bone health and bone turnover.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking about mechanically loading the bone in a high impact capacity. Could they all be related, right? Could they all be contributing to, better bone health, better joint health, and therefore helping with pain? I don't know, right? It
Well,
would be worth a dive.
and when we look at bone health in general, we know that part of what muscle does is it cushions the blow against bone,
Right.
right? Like it
Yeah,
it
the
stops
tendons
the
will transfer those forces from the muscle to the bone.
yeah. So if we have no muscle, it's probably not a good story for our
No,
bone.
I don't think so either. No.
So I think they all go hand in hand. What's interesting to me in this particular study is that they actually categorized serum vitamin D levels into 3 groups, and they actually followed the cutoff guidelines that we have here. Like if you were to go run your vitamin D, they have the same cutoff guidelines here,
Oh,
which
cool.
means that normal was anything above 75, which I would also argue that is actually low. I aim for my patients to be around 150. So I wonder if we'd actually see even more of a difference between
If
the
we
two
opened
groups
up, yeah.
if we increased the optimal range and we didn't call people over 75 normal, right?
Right.
And then the other thing was that, and I kind of alluded to this, is they looked at calcium consumption for through looking at dairy. And I think you and I both know dairy or calcium comes from a lot of different sources,
Right.
um, other than just dairy. So I think that's also something interesting that we could think about and when we're looking at this study. And I think this, like looking at the whole person, goes into a little bit of a conversation that I've wanted to have about naturopaths being supplement dealers.
Some
And I
dealers.
I I
You
say this,
badasses.
yeah, I say this
Dealing.
like
Wheeling and dealing.
joking like a little bit, but I think a lot of times when we're looking at conditions like PMS, for example, you and I have just spoken about all of the reasons why we would have a complete approach to someone. We would not
Yeah.
only just give them vitamin D and calcium, but we would consider strength training and we would look at their gut. And like I said, I know that the things that I've done over the years have led to the fact that I don't have painful periods. But there's been so many, like I've worked through the years
Right. For
at my
sure.
health, right? And so I think that what happens is we get really wrapped up in the fact that, calcium at 500 milligrams and vitamin D getting to this level and, this supplement here, like that's the PMS plan. But my question is always like, what's the next move? Like, what are we doing? Like, what about digestive health? Or what about, the fact that I mentioned that inflammatory markers are linked to PMS and to mental health issues? And how are we managing inflammation, right? We can't just eat whatever. We can't just eat whatever, take our calcium and vitamin D and say, I'm treating my PMS,
Right.
right? There's a lot of this like conventional mindset that gets put on the naturopathic lens, because I think, again, it's really good to have like like a standard of care, right?
Yeah.
Developing a standard of care is important. It's how medicine works. But we do have to understand the nuance and the specifics when it comes to someone, because, you know, patient A with PMS may have serious gut issues and a ton of inflammation and eats not well. Instead of chucking calcium and vitamin D at them and an SSRI, maybe we do an SSRI and like keep them stable depending on if it's PMS
Correct.
or PMDD. Maybe we actually put them on an SSRI. We work on gut health. We work on their diet. We get them a health coach that's going to actually keep them accountable. And we do it that way versus somebody who's like, listen, my PMS is awful. I've done this. They're like, then maybe we like layer on those supplements, those things that have been evidence-based
Right,
to.
because well, the supplement is like, and this is the conversations I've had with patients as well. When they've reported back about their protocols with their naturopathic doctors, is they'll often say like, "Well, I'm on all these supplements and nothing's working," and I'll be like, "Okay." And then when I dive deeper, they seem to believe that those supplements will cancel out the rest of their shitty lifestyle factors, and I'm like, and then I have to circle back and explain to them and say, "Well, no, this isn't like." That's not how this works. Like, you are still expected, and I can feel really confident that these individuals have had this conversation with you. You can't just go, have a slice of pizza and then, take your vitamin D on top of that and just expect everything's going to be good. I reference pizza because, I ate pizza today. I bet you. I wonder when was the last time I ate pizza. It's been months for sure. So it was like a whole experience.
I have a public service announcement. I had a wrap at Ripe Juicery, and it was the best
Better than
wrap I think I've ever had in a really long time. I couldn't tell you what was in it. It was a veggie wrap. It looked like, I thought it was like veggies with hummus. Maybe there was like a chickpea situation. Looked delicious. I was like, I'm getting it. Literally, I ate it and it had like some sort of garlic situation. Like, it was so good. So I need to say that you ate pizza. I had a delicious wrap.
That's way better. And you know what? I ate from a place that had like a funny name. It was like Super Good Pizza or Popular Pizza or, something like that. And I doubt it was popular or super good. It was mediocre at best. So I'm going to give this to you.
If we name ourselves Super Good, people are going to come.
It was in a shitty location. I'm like, I think you guys need so much more help than just being like Super Good Popular Pizza. I don't know, man. I was like driving around all day. It was like around the corner from where I was coaching our push level 1 class. I was just like, whatever's in the next intersection, I'm eating it. Russian roulette.
See, this is where I would always rather go through an A&W or like go to a Harvey's.
You know what? I would have picked, when I tell you I would have picked Harvey's immediately, but I had this circumference in my head. I was only allowed to go one intersection and whatever was there, I had to eat it. And it was like that, and it was like some random dude's convenience store. Again, named. It was like Paul's convenience store. I'm like, it's not even like a friggin' what are the popular ones around here? What are they called?
Circle K.
Circle K. If it was like Circle K, I'd be like, but no, it was like Paul's convenience store, popular, super good pizza.
This is the problem, okay? This is what we can use as a case study when we talk about the fact that people are human and humans are going to make human decisions. And here's what happens when you don't eat all day long and your blood sugar is so crashed that you feel moody, you're mad, you feel like you're going to pass out, you're nauseous and hungry.
The way I was ready to kill a human.
Yeah.
And I showed up to Popular Pizza like it was my saving grace. I was like, give it to me.
But this is what people do every single day.
Correct. And I don't understand how those people don't meal prep, because I was not in a good frame of mind, and I don't know how people get by.
But if you're used to it, that's what you're used to. Like, this is what I described to my patients. If your blood sugar is imbalanced, what is your brain going to do? Your brain's not going to be like, oh, I should go home and steam broccoli, right? Your brain is going to be like, get me to Popular Pizza immediately.
I'm gonna feel bad. Hopefully it's not actually called that and I just slander that online.
Listen.
It was okay pizza.
It was fine pizza.
It was fine and edible pizza, but I don't know that it was popular or super good. So poor
okay. People. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say the owner of Popular Pizza doesn't listen to our podcast.
You never know, I guess. But
he might. And you know what? Hi. If he does, hi.
And yeah,
You know what?
just
Okay.
keep
The
plugging
reason
away. We all need to improve, you know?
people need to understand that the reason why we're bringing this up is because Dr. Ashley Barker, I don't remember the last time she ate fast food. And I can
No,
tell you that
like for real.
confidently. Like
Yes.
when she told me I ate pizza, I'm thinking this
She's
chick is
unwell.
unwell.
She's
She's
unwell.
unwell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things
That's
are not going well. The Wednesday has
remember
not
I
taken
sent
a
you my Friday night? I was like, what am I gonna eat on Friday night? It's Friday night, we're excited, and I sent you a
she ate like
picture
chicken
steak
and
strips
quinoa.
and it was like rice and broccoli. I was like, I wasn't cool tonight.
No. I was like, I'm getting taste of shawarma. And here's the deal. You can eat, and actually, just side note, taste of shawarma and berry, like unmatched.
So we're gonna go.
Unmatched.
So it should be called super good shawarma.
Well, taste of.
Taste of, yeah,
I
best
mean,
taste of.
best
Needs to
popular taste of.
break it up.
The thing is when you get it, you can get healthier fast food. My point is like everyone's gonna have a human experience like this if they're not
Yeah,
prepared, right?
yeah,
And I leave my workplace and I am starving. Thank God, right? Juicery is on my drive because if I need to like hang a left quick, I know that at least it's gonna be somewhere decent, right?
right.
But I know when I have something prepared in the fridge, whether it's a bean salad, whether it's like leftovers, whether it's, I know that I can make it home because I then don't have to prepare something after.
Totally. It's like a whole mental experience, just knowing that it's there.
Knowing that it's there is the mental game. And I think the best thing you can do, because we're pairing together, not just taking supplements and like really taking radical responsibility for our own lives and our own health, and we need to make sure that we're taking the steps to do that. So keep a trail mix in your car, have a protein bar in your office, have a protein shake in your like on the
Right.
way home from work, so it just takes the edge off. So when you have to get home and prep dinner, you're drinking 20 grams of protein on the way home, right? And
I
it's gonna
actually
take
think
the
that's
edge
a
off.
really great idea for a lot of people on their commutes, and a lot of those beverages, like I'm thinking of like the premier proteins of the world that you can get from Costco, don't also have to be refrigerated. Like they're probably better
Right.
refrigerated, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not
Yep.
like a mandatory thing. So
Yep.
that's a great way to take the edge off.
You have a 45-minute drive home, chuck one of those in your car or put them, take them into the office if it's like hot and whatever.
Yeah.
And then drink it on the way home. And then it takes the edge off. You go pick up your kids. You can actually like prep dinner and you don't have to be eating while you're doing that, because that's certainly not going to help, your PMS and everything else. So I think, if you're going to take anything away from this, it's like just prepare yourself. And I saw something on Instagram. I guess we can like wrap up with this, but I saw something on Instagram today and it said, your hyper focus on them is a way to not focus on you.
So true.
And it was in relation to people, specifically moms, hyper focusing on the concerns of their children. And obviously we all care about our children and we're like,
of course, that's not even the argument here.
not the argument, but the argument is that like you're not putting yourself first, and you're so used to not putting yourself first that it's easy to make excuses to not change, to say that my life's too busy and I can't prep and I don't have time. Nobody has time.
Nobody has time. And you know what? Your kids are going to eat random shit off the floor if you let them. So you know what? Just like free for all, and then you go eat the chicken.
Yeah.
They will eat the goldfish off the floor. I witness it daily. It's fine.
And or they will let the dog lick their hands and then they will lick their own hand. Like it happens every day in my house.
Every day.
And yesterday, let me just paint a picture. Yesterday, I worked till 5. I was actually working till 5:15. I was on a call. I then sprinted to the school, got my kids by 5:30, got home by the time they meander and like it's like herding cats, okay?
Always.
So, we're home by 5:35, okay? And I had nothing prepared. What I did is I chucked those frozen chicken breasts that you can get at Costco in the freezer section. They're individually vacuum sealed.
Buy them all the time.
I opened them up, threw them in my Instant Pot, put some chicken broth in the bottom, seasoned them with the Kinder yellow seasoning, and then cooked them 20 minutes, pressure cook, okay? While I did that, I chopped up some sweet potato, put it on a pan, olive oil, cinnamon, chucked it in. I took a bag of frozen broccoli from Costco, the individually portioned one, threw it in the microwave for 6.5 minutes, Everything was going. Chicken was done. Broccoli was done. Sweet potato was done. My kids completely finished their plate. And it was the easiest meal ever. And it didn't take
Win.
effort, right? So I think doing just really coming back to simple, like I feel like the more extravagant my meals are, the less my kids eat.
Nobody eats them.
Nobody eats them.
Nobody cares about my effort.
Hold on, wait, before we close off.
I feel the same thing about my grown ass man of a boyfriend, actually, who just eats ground beef and rice and spicy mustard every day of his life.
If everybody prioritized it the way he does, everybody'd be doing a lot better.
Yeah, he's happy.
And you know what? Did I tell you about my overnight oats, my pumpkin overnight oats?
No, actually.
I made overnight oats. They were trash. Trash. Worst thing I've ever tasted. But you know what? You win some and you lose some. And I won the chicken and I lost the oatmeal. And that is that.
That is that. This is our human experience on this podcast in real time.
Yep.
I hope you all enjoyed
everybody enjoyed. Hopefully we'll see you next week. We'll see what life brings us.
Bye.
Bye.